Alright, we are looking at factoring, so make sure you have your notes printed out. And the first kind of factoring we're going to look at is factoring out the greatest common factor. So I said you had to look for the largest number and the smallest variable. This is kind of like backwards distributing. Alright, so let's look at this. We look at the first one. What you're going to do is look at the numbers in front, 10 and 4, and you're going to say, what is the absolute largest number besides 1 that goes into both 10 and 4? And that's a 2, so we write it down. And then you say, all right, well, do they both have x's? Yes. Well, if they both have x's, you can take some out. You can take out the smallest amount, the smallest exponents. That would be just taking out 1x. Okay. So I could take out 1x. What you're going to do is you're going to open yourself up parentheses. To decide what's left in the inside, what you do is you take both of those and divide them by 2x. That's what you're left with. So 10 divided by 2 is 5, and x squared, you took away 1x, there's 1x left. And then 4 divided by 2 is 2, and there's 1x, and you took it away. Okay. And if you want to know if you can always check it by distributing, but just make sure you grab the largest number. Alright, so same thing here. Look at the numbers in front. 20 and 8. And what is the absolute biggest number besides 1 that goes into both 20 and 8? That's going to be 4. Alright, do they both have x's? Yes. So I can take out the smallest amount, so that's going to be an x squared. That's what I can take out, and let's see what's left. So again, we're taking both of these and dividing them by what we took out for x squared. So let's see what would be left. 20 divided by 4 is 5, and there are 2 x's left if I subtract them. And then 8 divided by 4 is 2, and those are gone now. Alright, moving on. 30 and 10. What's the biggest number that goes into 30 and 10? Besides 1 would be 10. Alright, let's look at our x's. Do they both have them? Yes, I can take out 1. And y's, do they both have them? Yes, take out the smallest amount, so that's 2. Alright, so that's what I'm taking out. Let's divide everybody by that. So if I divided that by 10, xy squared, you'd be left with 30 divided by 10 is 3, 1x, 1y. And if you divided this one by 10xy squared, you still have to say 10 divided by 10 and get the 1, but the x's are gone and so are the y's now. And here, let's look. All right, 3 terms. So 15, 3, and 12. What's the biggest number that goes into 15, 3, and 12 besides 1 is 3. Alright, they all have x's. 4, 3, and 4. I can take out the smallest amount, so 3. And they all have y's. 6, 5, and 4, so I can take out 4. Alright, so let's take that away from everybody. So divide everybody by 3, x to the third, y to the fourth. And let's see what's left. So 15 divided by 3 is 5, 1x, 2 y's. 3 divided by 3 is 1. No x's but 1 y. And 12 divided by 3 is 4, 1x, no y's. Okay. So again, it's just backwards distributing. So for the next two, let's keep going. And then I have a note that's going to switch it. Alright, 30 and 10. Biggest number that goes into both again was 10. We just did one very similar. Now on this one, do they both have x's? No. So if they both don't have x's, or if all of your terms, however many you have, don't have x's or y's or ab's or c's, whatever your variable is, you can't take any out. So the only thing I can take out here is a 10. So I'm going to divide both of these by 10. So 30 divided by 10 is 3, and there's an x there, and 10 divided by 10 is 1. So you can't always take out an x. And over here, I put this one on here because what's the number in front of the x squared? It's a 1. Is there any number besides 1 that goes into 1 and 7? No, you can't always take out a number, but what do they share in common? They both have at least an x. Okay, take out the smallest. So if I took away 1x from both of those, I'm left with x plus 7. So you can't always take out a number. You can't always take out a variable. Okay. Alright, so I'll put this note here. Whenever the first term is negative, you must factor out the negative sign. All this does is switch the signs you had. Everything works the same. But when that's a negative, like that one, go ahead and write it down. And then what's the biggest number that goes into both 4 and 12 would be 4. And do they both have x's? No, so you can't take that out. So all I'm going to do is divide those by a negative 4, which will switch their signs. So negative 4 divided by negative 4 is positive 1, and there's an x there. And 12 divided by negative 4 is a negative 3. Again, if you're not sure you did it right, just check it by distributing. Okay, so same thing here. That first one's negative. I'm going to take it out. And what's the biggest number that goes into 4, 32, and 20? That would be a 4. And they all have x's. I could take out the smallest amount, so that's just taking out one x. So let's divide everybody by negative 4x and see what we get. We would get, alright, negative 4 divided by negative 4 is 1, and I have x squared left. 32 divided by negative 4 is negative 8, and I have an x left, and negative 20 divided by negative 4 is a positive 5. No x's left. Okay. And then we have our last 4 in this section, which is factor by grouping. So I gave you the steps, okay, in your notes. So we're just going to fill in the work. Alright, so you only factor by grouping when you have 4 terms. So like all of these 4 examples have 4 pieces, 4 terms. So the first step is you put the first 2 together and the second 2 together. Okay? And then what you're going to do is say, alright, I need to factor out whatever I can between x squared plus 2x. Well, what is the only thing they have in common? Take out an x. If I took away an x from both of those, I'm left with x plus 2. Okay, in grouping, whatever this sign is, we just copy it down. So we'll copy a plus. And then what is the only thing I can take out of 4x plus 8? What's the biggest number that goes into both 4 and 8 is 4, and they don't have x's both, so I can't take any out. But if you divide those by 4, 4x divided by 4 is just left with an x, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. You know you grouped it right if the inside matches. So I know I did this right, but that's not my final answer. For your final answer, you draw 2 parentheses. Okay. In one of them, you put that matching inside, and in the other one, you put what's left on the outsides, which would be an x plus 4. The order doesn't matter, so if you want to give me x plus 4, if you want to write your outsides first and then your insides, it doesn't matter. Either of those are okay. Okay. Alright, let's do this one. So again, 4 terms, put the first 2 and the second 2 together. So x squared plus 3x was the only thing I can take out is an x, and I'd be left with x plus 3. Alright, so remember, be careful with your signs in grouping. Whatever that first sign is, we write it down there. And then between 5x and 15, what do they share in common? They share a 5. So if you divided both of those, be careful, by negative 5, you would be left with a positive x and a positive 3. So do my insides match? Yep. So one time I write the insides, and one time I write what's on the outsides, which would be x minus 5. If you want to know if you did it right, you can always FOIL to check. Alright, so let's run through these last two. xy minus 5x plus 9y minus 45. Alright, so I grouped 2 and 2. Alright, xy minus 5x, the only thing they share is an x. If I took out an x, I'd be left with y minus 5. Alright, so that sign I copy down. And then 9y minus 45, what's the biggest number that goes into 9 and 45? That's going to be a 9. I can't take out a y, but if I divide both those by 9, I'm left with y minus 5. So we did it right. So my answer is y minus 5, x plus 9. And then this one. Alright, be careful with this one. Alright, so what can I take out of 4x cubed minus x squared? I can't take out anything between a 4 and a 1, but how many x's can I take out? Good, x squared. So if I divided those by an x squared, I'd be left with 4x minus 1. I have to write something there. The x's, yes, they cancel out, but there's still a 1 there. Alright, this tells me I have to write down a negative. And what's the biggest number that goes in both 12 and 3? That's going to be 3. So if I divide those by a negative 3, I'm left with negative 12 divided by negative 3 is positive 4, and there's an x. And 3 divided by negative 3 would be a negative 1. So we did do it right. So one time we say 4x minus 1, and one time we say x squared minus 3. Okay, go practice homework.